Hello, today is 30th of May 2022. I decided to do a video on conjunctions with Saturn because obviously all the most of the comments that I get from people is just like really surrender into Saturn and just thinking that it's like, well, surrender into the chart full stop, because like, how is this going to be, how my marriage is going to be. Listen guys, I really can't answer those things because it really is down to you as an individual and how you live your life. You have free will. 20 to 30% of your life is you create that. If you're constantly fearful, fear equals bad energy, negative energy, boundaries, limits, lack. You're not going to create anything. Human beings, humankind, remember we are kind and we're here to help each other out. And as much as I can, these are supposed to be informative videos so you can empower yourself. This is what we use astrology for. If you're using astrology to take that power away from yourself, what you're doing, you're restricting yourself even more. So you're doubling up on that Saturn. In fact, you're giving yourself more of a debilitated Saturn in a sense, because what you're doing, you're just thinking, I have no power. You have plenty of power, believe me. We are made of frequency. We can make things happen. This is why we are creative. Human beings are creative. Anyway, so I've got loads of videos on what Saturn is. You can just, I might put some links below, but generally speaking, here is a little sort of intro on what Saturn is. So Saturn is our boundaries, our limits, discipline, and where in our chart we're actually paying off our karma. This is what we've chosen to do. This is almost like going to imagine, this is what you want to do. This is like you've chosen this lifetime to do this. And don't worry, we've got loads and loads of lifetimes. We don't need to just like try and cram everything into one. But if you can cram things into one lifetime, do all the positive things. So where Saturn is, that is probably where it's aspecting, obviously these are going to be like mega, but also aspects 3 houses away from itself and also 10 houses away from itself too. And I actually take that 10 spaces from 10 houses from Saturn as being quite a big one. So, but generally speaking, Saturn is important. Saturn is shows you your weaknesses, where you're shy, where you got like you're blocking yourself, where you got to show humanity, humility, and remove your ego away from it. So where you don't feel good enough and you have to consciously work at it. So as I said, this is very, very, this is basically what we have to work on. And what would be the point of being on this earth if we have nothing to work on? So this is the start point of it. Saturn is obviously rules Capricorn and Aquarius. It's very, very strong in both. It's probably a little bit more autocratic and quite disciplined and unforgiving when it's in Capricorn. So we find people who actually have that in their natal chart, they are really hard on themselves, really hard. And we've all also suffered with that just recently, because we had that in Capricorn for just over 2 years since 2020, January 24th. It's just recently on 30th of April gone into Aquarius, but it is going to retrograde back into Capricorn again. But luckily it's going to be retrograde for most of it, obviously, until it goes direct. So, but without Saturn and the discipline of Saturn, you achieve nothing in life. That is what you've got to tell yourself. If everything was hunky-dory and Jupiterian, idealistic, you have nothing at all. You just literally live on hope and optimism, being idealistic. So this is where we get the foundation, and we build from the ground up. So we get really solid foundations with the help of Saturn. There are also big learning curves for us with Saturn, where obviously We have our Sagittarius, where Saturn will be for just over about 2.5 years before the sign your moon is in, 2.5 years over your moon sign, and then 2.5 years after. So there are major changes in your life during that time. Again, don't fear it. I'll tell you, I have just come out of that, and it was really actually the best time of my life. And when I look back, my first Saturn return, that was when I started my business. So it just literally elevates you. If you go with it, if you put the hard work in, you're sure to get the results. And also when, so that was Sagittarius, and there's a Saturn return as well. So where Saturn is like, returns to where it is in your natal chart, in transit, it arrives back on there where it was when you were born. And that will be yours again. That could be quite a pivotal time in your life. So it's very important to just like really harness that energy that's given you to just like go for life and achieve where and normally gives you quite a lot of success. People have got really good work at Saturn. And because Saturn is also the planet that gives you a lot more as you get older, at the time when you don't want to be having a lot of hardship and difficulties. So it's really supportive of life anyway, in that sense. Saturn rules, as I said, Capricorn and Aquarius. Aquarius is like multiconus sign for Saturn. So this is where Saturn is really strong, but in a more freedom-loving, humanitarian way. And it's also debilitated in Aries, and it's exalted in Libra because it's a sign of working with other people. Saturn is committed to other people. It's not like about me, myself, and I. It's very much about us collectively. And this is the reason why it's so strong in Aquarius. And just turn this up. So yeah, so this and Saturn is arch enemy to the Sun first, the Moon, and it's also enemies to Mars. It's neutral with Jupiter, friendly with Venus. Venus is Saturn's best friend because between them they bring commitment, bring family together. You work together, and then you gain from it. It is just commitment to yourself, to paying off your karma, and having other people in mind too, and also being committed to your partnerships and relationships and marriage. It's also friendly with Mercury. It works quite well with Ketu. It's not friendly with Rahu, because Rahu is all about gain and smoking mirrors, and you know, so it's a bit trickster. And Saturn doesn't like that. So Saturn is much more dignified as a planet in nature. Right. So I'm going to stop this now and come back, and we do Saturn conjunction starting with the Sun. Saturn Jupiter conjunction or opposition. So let's have a look at this. They are neutral towards each other, so it's neither good or bad. But obviously, what Saturn is doing is taking out all that optimism and forward-looking out of Jupiter. In a sense, if Jupiter is too strong as well in your chart, because Jupiter can be too idealistic and too not very grounded, so it can ground the person in that case. So but this will obviously be very different for different ascendants, generally speaking. However, you know, it's one of those signs that these people can be like movers and shakers if this occurs in a good sign. But if it doesn't occur in a good sign, can be very, very difficult, because they are so because they're neutral towards each other, but Saturn's friends are enemies to Jupiter, so that creates that little bit of friction there. And this is a planet of like bigger picture. It's all about optimism, expansion, opportunities, and glass half full, wisdom, high knowledge, spirituality, purpose, growth, your life force, because it's Jiva Karaka, rules children, rules education, rules purpose, as I said, you know, and things like that. So immediately you can see that because joy is ruled by Saturn, by Jupiter, it takes joy away from Jupiter in a sense. Because what it's trying to do, Saturn is the teacher of what deals out the karma. So it's trying to kind of say to Jupiter, it's all very well having all these big ideas and everything, but how grounded are you? Are these going to take place? So what I have seen from this, which can be quite good if it's in a good sign. If the ascendant is strong, this makes a massive difference. So these people have got all these ideas, but they never get them started because what Saturn does is kind of makes them look at the difficulties, the hurdles, the setbacks, hard work ahead. So it makes Jupiter a little bit shy of that, because Jupiter can be like that. So it's you see them just like, oh, I'm going to do this, and then a couple of months later, oh, I didn't carry on with it. You know, that they could start like a degree and stop, start another degree and stop, that form of thing, because they are a little bit confused about what their purpose is really. And the bigger picture is a bigger picture without, it's too idealistic, it's too expansive. So it's not going to deal with the boundaries of Saturn. Saturn is all about limitations, you know, be grounded, don't keep having all these ideas, don't start a lot of things, try to complete them. And obviously Jupiter is just like a bit shy of those things. So they could end up doing a lot of things and maybe not finishing very many things, or actually having the ideas and maybe not processing them in any way. They sort of say it's lack of purpose there, lack of wanting to put the effort in, if you like. And that could also stop them from actually growing as a soul, as a person, you know, not really fulfilling their purpose in a sense. So evolvement will be difficult because of that, like, risk assessing thing that's going on all the time. And this, so although they are spiritual, so if, again, you know, if it's got like, if Jupiter becomes, obviously Jupiter is afflicted anyway by sitting by Saturn, but it's then naturally, you know, the natural relationship is neutral. But if he gets, Jupiter is weak in Venus sign, Mercury sign, even Rahu, really, conjunctional aspect of Rahu can actually just be a little bit tricky, but definitely Venus particularly, I think. It's like, it's just literally becomes so very much to do with lots of enjoyment, lots of, you know, particularly if it's 12th house or second house is involved, lots of spending, just because it's just like, you know, they just literally, they're not grounded, you know, and it's like expansive thing. So they're too much into luxury, too much into, they talk the spiritual talk, but they really actually underneath it, they're very much into just the enjoyment of life. So that you can see that through that sometimes, which is, so it's like, it is a little bit like it can, you know, I think that about Jupiter. I think Jupiter is, I think that's why sometimes it's good when he's in a house in the sign that's quite limits it a little bit. It's more fixed. Like, for example, it does quite well in what would be like Leo would be a very good sign for it in that sense. So it can be a little bit like, and Mercury can make it a little bit like, want to learn. I'm going to write a book. But they really never do it. They buy all these courses. They're constantly looking at courses and doing this. I must do that. But like, so they could start a business if it's connected to like 6th house or 10th house, and they could actually then literally spend all this money on different courses, learning this, learning that, never really applying them, and actually end up costing them absolute fortune. So yeah, this can be, you know, Venus and Mercury signs or aspects or something like that. Like it can actually spoil the beauty of Jupiter a little bit. You know, that's, and particularly Venus gives lack of satisfaction for sure. So it really depends on that thing, and their children are very important to them naturally, and they could um, they could end up having, obviously there could be a delay, but I have seen people having this and having children quite young, and they could end up either having the children young and having many kids, or having them later having a few kids, you know. So it just depends on the chart and the dashas that they are having. But they can think that they're spiritual, but they you know, Venus and Mercury can actually, you know, trick us a little bit in that department. So yeah, there is that. So, but you know, it does get better with time. You know, it just needs to be grounded, and you need to carry things forward. You need to not just talk the talk, but walk the walk with this. So let's have a look at the ascendants. Okay, for okay, Aries ascendant. It brings together 9th and 12th house and 10th and 11th house together. So the whole of that side of the, so this will obviously bring the money planets together, 9th and 11th house. So you know that they are, education will be good, education, working abroad, educating outside your own country, abroad. Those themes, they can be quite cultured actually. They can travel quite a lot, and their work will be to do with that. But they will also spend quite a lot of money, just because of the whole Jupiter rules the 12th house. But 12th house doesn't actually spoil anything. This makes a fantastic Raja and Dana yoga of wealth and also success, accomplishment. They could be really good teachers, good gurus really in time. It does get better with time, I would say, for sure. Okay, and obviously this will be good in most houses, and apart from 6th house, because obviously create issues. But it's 2 of the houses are Upachaya, 10th and 11th house. So it gets better with time. Then for Taurus ascendant, this brings 8th and 11th house ruler Jupiter with Yoga Karaka planet, 9th and 10th house ruler. So actually, Jupiter doesn't break any yogas for them as such. So it's still Yoga Karaka planet with 11th house ruler. So it's good for money. Sudden changes in faith, in work, a lot of research in work. Dad's health could be a little bit compromised with this, because also Jupiter rules 8th house and comes together with Saturn, which is 9th house ruler. So they can have issues with breaks in their education, and father's health, father's fortunes can be up and down, happiness of that, and also your own luck too. And if we go now to Gemini, for Gemini ascendant. Okay, Gemini ascendant for you, 8th and 9th house ruler Saturn, and 7th and 10th house ruler. So obviously this creates really, really good Mahapurush Raja Yoga. Very nice. 7th and 9th house ruler, 9th and 10th house ruler, particularly wonderful Mahapurush Yoga. As long as it's not connected to the 6th house, will be lovely. But this is, definitely is one to do with marriage, work, and partnerships. Could be very, very appealing. Education, working in education, publishing, working with your spouse, or meeting your spouse at work would also be there. And obviously if, there could be like 8th house is divorce too, so, or changes in job or things like that too. So but if they work it, they can have it gives longevity in that sense, because Saturn will make you grounded to work at things. Okay, Cancer ascendant, 7th and 8th house ruler Saturn together with Jupiter, which is 6th and 9th house. So you know that yoga is going to be broken because the sixth house. Sixth house also Upachaya house, as I've said before, so it does get better with time, and you see some fruits from that. But brings together sixth, seventh, eighth, and ninth house together, so it could really education, could create debts, litigation debts. Father could have litigation issues, health issues. It can have all those kind of things. Educational debt can be part of this too. And because it's seventh house ruler and ninth house ruler as well, so they can see that there could be discord in the marriage or any partnerships too, which result in issues with the past, really. So Leo ascendant, Leo for you, Jupiter is fifth and eighth house ruler together with Saturn, which is sixth and seventh house ruler. So again, creates issues because sixth house ruler is involved, not really, it breaks the yogas, but it is sixth and eighth house rulers together. So it does also create Vipratraj yoga through hard work, effort, and really doing your service, working through your daily routine and really applying yourself. Things will get better. You have to really work on, having kids could give you issues as well. So you could also end up like having, say, for example, IVF or something like that if you have problems, but there's got to be a lot of things wrong there. But that creates some form of debt. And, obviously it's like it's a massive thing, isn't it? So, but generally speaking, the longer they wait, the more they're going to fulfill those issues. But it can bring success through difficulties because it's still a Raj Yoga fifth and seventh house ruler, but the best one of all is sixth and eighth house ruler. So that will actually help in the long term with that Vipratraj yoga. Okay, Virgo ascendant brings together fourth and seventh house ruler with fifth and sixth house ruler. Again, sixth house is involved. So it could be education, with working in education, working for governmental jobs, working, social services, that kind of thing. That's how you're paying off your karmas to the world. And so obviously there could be a divorce, there could be, discord, things like this. And having children could give you debts, or buying a home also. Mother's health could create debt issues. But, again, sixth house ruler does get better with time. And the more patient you are, the better it will become. So I would probably say don't go and overstretch yourself with money, particularly if Jupiter is stronger than Saturn. Libra ascendant, you have Yogacaraka planet, fourth and fifth house ruler with Jupiter, which is third and sixth house ruler. So Jupiter rules two Upachaya houses, which get better with time, effort, and energy put in, being of service, looking after your daily routine, your health and well-being. And also, obviously, rules fourth and fifth house. So they could create mother's health, children's health, can create debt for you, obstacles, issues, things like that. Could be some issues with kids or having them, or they could be just slightly challenging. But with time things will work out, using skills, good sort of like powerful, because this fifth house can give you, if you gain actually advice and from the right people, that could really help you, make you happy, make the children happy, and create a place of peace where you can actually work through all your issues. But it does take perseverance and hard work. Scorpio ascendant, second and fifth house ruler Jupiter with third and fourth house ruler. So this is all about like savings, working hard, interests, friends, mum, and children. So it's very much to do with those personal houses. So the more as long as it doesn't fall into the sixth house, this should be quite nice. Third house ruler is obviously Upachaya house. Communication with them gets better with time. But generally speaking, it brings together fifth and second house ruler with the fourth house ruler. So it creates Jupiter on its own creates done yoga, but with Saturn brings the Raja yoga. But you could also be moving quite a lot too. You know, maybe you have children and all of that, and just need expansion of home. But it can be pretty good if just obviously as long as 6th house is not involved. Okay, so for Sagittarius ascendant, 2nd and 3rd house ruler. With 1st and 4th house ruler, again, very personal houses. So happiness will come by putting effort into siblings, interests, friends, good communication, really providing for family a nice home so everybody can just feel quite cozy. This is very much like family home, feeling good, being together, enjoyment of that kind of thing. As long as they don't fall into the 6th house, this is pretty lovely. Or in Venus's sign, because Venus is 6th house ruler. Okay, next one. Capricorn ascendant for you guys, 1st and 2nd house ruler will be with 12th and 3rd house ruler. So obviously for Capricorn, Jupiter is not very good planet for you, creates issues, hospitalization, losses, expenses, that kind of thing. And also, obviously 3rd house, their speech and actually self-expression to get what you want comes with time. And so this is what they have to do. They have to really put a lot of effort into life in order to be able to achieve what they want. Hopefully it's not, but even if it's ruled with 8th house, it should be not too bad because it creates Prithviraj yoga. But if the 12th house ruler is in the 8th house, but generally speaking, there could be quite a lot of expenditure. You know, you can create your own expenses and losses because you don't complete things, go from one thing to the next, and you don't really plan things. You know, 3rd house is planning, organizing yourself. 6th house, or that's organizing 6th house, but putting effort into learning skills to manage yourself in that sense. So, okay, so Aquarius ascendant, 12th and 1st house ruler Saturn with Jupiter, which is 2nd and 11th house ruler. So, you know, there's going to be a lot of expenses. They earn quite good money and they also spend it as well. So, so they have to learn that, you know, they create their own addiction because they spend money. They could feel guilty because 12th house and then spend some more or get into addictive things going on. So there's this constant earning money, losing money, earning money, losing money. So they just got to start valuing themselves. Saturn rules 1st house in order to be able to get the best out of this. If it's not connected with the 6th house, then it's fine. But it just means that you've got to really do the work on yourself a little bit and realizing, do I actually need this? Every time you hold on to something on your phone or something, just think, do I really need this? And probably answers most often are absolutely not. Okay, so Pisces ascendant, it brings together Jupiter, 1st and 10th house ruler with 11th and 12th house ruler. Jupiter is obviously a very good planet for you guys, and Saturn can give you good gains. Unfortunately, also can give you expenses and losses too. Or you could work abroad behind the scenes. Could be a medic, work in a laboratory, work in hospital or in a prison service, something like that. And yeah, so it is like, it could be that the job takes you abroad quite a lot. You do export, imports. You could even, run a spa, something like that. But there's some losses to be had there, good gains and some losses too, until Jupiter becomes quite grounded and Saturn's, if they're in a good house, maybe they would just work it together. But yeah, there is definitely some expenses there, and it just gets better with time. 10th and 11th, both of them are really long-term things, but it does create good done yogas for you for sure. That's it from me, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you for watching. Thank you.